Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to those of you joining this first webinar of the Cyber Jumpstart program. We think it's a very important part of helping you understand what the current and future landscape looks like in terms of cybersecurity, where the opportunities lie, and to answer your questions about how you get from wherever you are now to realize those opportunities. It's a great pleasure to welcome Durgen Cooper to the call. Durgen is ex-Navy, and he'll run you through his journey shortly. And he's now Chief Executive of a company called CETSAT, based down, as I am, in the southwest of England. So without further ado, Durgen, I'll turn it over to you, and thank you very much indeed for joining us today.
Andrew, thank you. Well, first and foremost, obviously, I've had some technical issues with my video today, so I would be waving at you all now and welcome. So the purpose of this session is to give you some confidence, really, that a career change from uniformed service into cybersecurity is valid, and more importantly, that there is employment out there. I certainly believe it is, you'll be pleased to hear, and I'll share some more of that with you shortly. I thought, as Andrew's just suggested, I'd give you a brief history about how I came to be here speaking with you today, what I do today, and the journey that I took to get here. So first and foremost, as Andrew suggested, I am a Royal Naval veteran, or Fleet Air Arm to the purists amongst you, where I left in 1996, having spent several years on the Seeking Mark IV squadrons out at RNS Yeovilton down in the southwest. Sadly and unexpectedly, my career was cut far too short due to colour blindness and changes in regulations, where I believed, obviously, as many of you may have entered service, believing that I would be there for a full career. And I took, because I hadn't anticipated leaving the service quite so soon, I really didn't know what I was going to do. And I took quite diverse resettlement opportunities, a few to note, sort of forestry, diving, and certainly on the IT side, back in the late 90s, a system called Novell networking, if anyone knows of that, which was a precursor really to Microsoft networking really taking off, which is certainly where I found my passion for technology. Thankfully, I was very lucky to leave the Navy on a Wednesday. I moved to London on a Friday, got a job with Union Bank of Switzerland on Monday, and started on Tuesday. So a real baptism of fire with no job to go to, and little experience in the industry. It was one of those lucky things, I'm sure. But certainly for the next couple of years or few years, I bounced around the city in a number of jobs, during which I evolved from Novell networking into Microsoft. I became certified as a Microsoft engineer, and eventually I fell into running my own business back in 2001. Today, I've got interest in several businesses, generally with a tech focus where cybersecurity features to either a small or large degree. And these include an MSSP working in government defence, an MSP, managed service provider in financial services, bit of nuclear and professional services, and also a cyber insurance startup. So quite a diverse sort of focus and portfolio. And today, the evolution of two of those businesses very much is into operational technology, or OT, so the Internet of Things, building management platforms, SCADA systems, and so on. So, which is a very much emerging area in cybersecurity as the proliferation of devices occurs. So, sort of final bits about me: I sit as a special advisor on the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Cybersecurity, alongside a few other bodies, boards, and think tanks, and finally, I had a midlife crisis several years ago, and on a positive note to my wife, which wasn't fast cars and loose women, and having thought that I've given up the services 20 years prior, I joined the Army Reserve, where now I'm an SO2 working in an Army cyber regiment, which delivers capability pan defense. So a very, very varied route to be speaking to you today. So back to industry and back to that question, are we all employable? And statistically, I think it's some recent statistics that I've seen, sort of general occupation in the UK is set to grow at 4%, whereas cyber is estimated to be at 30% per annum. So a huge explosion. Business is waking up to the threat of cyber, and in many quarters it is very slow and painful. And I and my colleagues seem to spend most of our time in a cycle of education about risk and assisting organisations to understand their posture prior to them adopting cybersecurity services. And this is mainly, I've seen, being driven by supply chain risk. So you will perhaps have heard of such things as cyber essentials and things like that, which I was involved in some of the sort of thinking around cyber essentials too a few years ago. And my problem was that it was never mandated into supply chain or into government supply chain between the MOD and nuclear disposal. So it is now happening, and we're seeing councils, for example, need put it as a requirement for local government contracts and so on. So it is becoming much more mainstream, and business owners, large and small, are becoming very apparent. So there is a place for all of us, and as I say, it's growing. In the last week, I've employed 2 people into our team. So it's a growing industry, and I'm seeing that broadly. So as serving members of the armed forces, you already have taken a huge step towards working in cyber than you might think. Examples are that you already understand the key risks with physical security, e.g. fences and doors. You understand about the challenge. You understand about challenging individuals when they're in who are unknown, should I say, in potential risk areas. So these are the same in cybersecurity. Firewalls protect our boundaries. Applications are locked to key holders, or doors, should I say, are the things locked to key holders. And a SOC will identify players who should not be there. And that is very much the emerging sort of landscape that I'm seeing currently. So the cyber landscape is absolutely huge, and the list of jobs within the industry are varied. Security architect, I would consider myself to be a defensive cyber architect. So that's what where I am employed essentially by our clients, but obviously SOC analysts, cybersecurity engineers, through to computer forensics, pen testers, security administrators, engineers, and vulnerability analysts. So, and the beauty of this industry is that you can move between those roles quite easily when you're in. The opportunities are rising fast. And equally, as I suggested, I'm involved in cyber insurance, which again, that industry is looking is not working well currently, and they too are now looking from an insurance perspective to employ cyber people who aren't necessarily insurers, but essentially able to advise. And the big point is incident response engineers. So with the amount of claims rising, as I understand it from a recent bit of information I had, cyber insurance is running at a 400% loss currently. So a huge requirement for assistance in that area. The point being is that we're all needed in this industry. And, as I tell my own children, I think if they go into it, it's a career for life, which is a good thing because there aren't that many of those that I can see. So what is the purpose of a cybersecurity workforce? Well, assuming it's defensive, it is to keep digital assets secure and private, of course. And I'm often asked to speak with service leavers here in Somerset, at RNAS Yeovilton, about what they need to do to get into the industry. What qualifications are required is obviously a big topic, and seeing the pathway as just presented, that's obviously a wholesome process to go through. Myself, I've actually several vendor qualifications, but certainly I myself don't hold CISP or any other pure cyber certifications. In all honesty, purely because I haven't got time, because I'm delivering, so to speak, in the wild. But certainly running a tech company where we have school and college leavers along with graduates, I always personally have my staff come in and work in a service desk environment so that they understand topology. You know, I know people who want to be white hat hackers, but they don't understand the transmission layer, the network upon which they would actually attack a potential target. So I personally start people at the network layer and have them understand about network, firewalls, security tools and services which are used in defense, so that they get a good understanding broadly around IT services to then start to specialize in cyber. Yeah, it certainly helps to understand client pain and, more importantly, the different infrastructures that are out there. Certainly, from a learning perspective, however, and notwithstanding the Jumpstart scheme, a lot of my staff will self-study around CompTIA. There are lots of courses and certifications along that route. And in all honesty, I've been very impressed with LinkedIn Learning over the last months. LinkedIn, if you're not already on it, I assume you will be in the not too distant future. And LinkedIn Learning is a paid subscription where you can undertake all manner of training, but certainly owned by Microsoft. Its technical bent is very prevalent and very impressive. So certainly that is a good route for training. And then beyond that, I thought I'd really share some experience around sort of some situations which have occurred around clients where mistakes have been made, essentially, where, you know, in the future you may come across situations where around managed services, invariably, as we know, a lot of cyber, or 90% of cyber threat or compromise occurs with some form of human interaction. So that is the statistic. People are not trained effectively, and by that I don't mean from a cybersecurity technical perspective, but users of systems are often not trained, which is a huge problem. And indeed, around the managed services, it's often overlooked that things like backup, disaster recovery are part, as I see it, of cybersecurity, because once a compromise, which is Admiral Sir Mike Rogers, leader of the NSA, suggested it's a question of if, not when, we are compromised. So I have concern about my own company and that of my clients. And from a managed services perspective, people often forget that the IT services essentially has to be robust as a part of that cybersecurity framework. So quite important areas there to consider. Beyond that, I really invite you to ask questions. I've given you quite a lot of information there, which I hope some of it is useful, and not wishing to sort of make big of myself, but I hope that the journey into sort of technology and cybersecurity is interesting, and it certainly happens a great deal. So I hope that that's taken on board, that it's not as difficult perhaps as one might think. Andrew.
Durgen, thank you very much indeed. That's very helpful. That there are many different routes that people can take, and so I hope now, as we open it up for questions, that people can explore the options there with you. Perhaps I could start it off, and Alice, presumably everyone is, if you'd unmute everyone, but this question of qualifications comes up a lot. You mentioned CompTIAs, you mentioned vendor qualifications. Another route that people can take through the skills build learning, for example, is Fortinet's Network Security Expert program as an example of that. So when you're recruiting people or advising people, how does a professional certification from an employer like IBM or a Fortinet qualification, how does that compare perhaps with CompTIA's CREST certifications, which you can actually go through quite quickly and get an accreditation certification from those programs? What are you looking for? Is it more about evidence of people's willingness to learn and technical competence, or are you actually looking, or are your clients looking for a CISP or a CompTIA certification on a CV?
No, understood. Well, all of the above, actually. Obviously, with vendor-specific certifications such as IBM and Fortinet, obviously working in specific environments, those add huge value. We are ourselves a Fortinet partner and know them well, and certainly moving more into the consultancy side, the CISP, the higher level consultant, that is really required for the larger contracts. But certainly at a technical level, having Fortinet quals, I mean, the 40, and forgive me for using 40, but I do know them better than IBM. The portfolio of products that they have are quite diverse, and therefore, you've got specialisms within specialisms there. Whereas things like the CompTIA are much more, I'd suggest, the entry point that I see. So very much sort of more general grounding across the board, rather than being specific in a specific vendor environment, or, as I say, with CISP, which is very much more strategic consulting.
Thanks, Durgen, for that. Matt Edwards, oh, hello, Matt, nice to see you again, is asking, and in fact, consulting's a route for a number of people. Do you need to be employed for a while before you could become an independent consultant?
It depends where you're aiming, I think it's fair to say, and what experience you have. So if you're looking at the SME market, the small to medium enterprise market, then perhaps not. I mean, certainly in technology, this is a conversation I had earlier, there is no compelling certification that anyone has to have in IT generally, where, for example, an accountant or a lawyer has to be qualified to trade. So in that respect, and you've qualified that, so B2B, no is the answer. There are many people who have experience who go out there. They've worked in technology for some time. Perhaps they may have done obviously some specific qualifications around cyber. And so I believe the answer is no. If you are able to assist an organization who, where you are competing with perhaps a managed service provider or MSSP, for example, where they, their rates are going to be greatly higher, an organization out there may not have the budget currently to look to such an organization. So certainly I believe that you are absolutely right, that you can go out and be a security consultant with little real life experience, but certainly having the grounding, which you may already have from service, for example, and the Jumpstart scheme would certainly give you an edge on many.
Thanks, Durgen. Let's see if we can allow other people to speak. Matt, have you got any follow-up on that?
I can unmute you if you want to talk. So
yeah,
just leave in the chat.
Matt, any follow-up? Alice, can you unmute everybody or not?
I can try it, but I think
Let's
I
invite.
need to one by
Let's,
one.
okay, can you unmute Mark Goggs and allow him to ask his question?
Let me try to unmute. Okay. That should be done now.
Hello. Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Mark.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, so obviously we're on this Coursera course at the moment, and really I'm just wondering, is there a natural progression from this course on the next stage, or would you then be looking at employment, so to speak, from the course?
Is that one more for you, Andrew?
Yeah, it might be. As I said at the beginning, Mark, the whole idea is to help people on a journey into employment or to get skills to compete for higher level roles. So absolutely, that's what we're trying to do. And in fact, Anya and her team are working through all of you who are learning this to find out who are on the program, to find out where you are on your journey and whether we can help. Anya, I don't know whether do you want to respond to that? You're on mute. You're on mute. Try again.
Yes, thanks for the question, Mark. I think there's no one size fits all. You're all coming to this course with various different levels of experience and various different levels of interest. So there is no one perfect step of individuals are accessing and leaving the course at various different stages. So it'll come down to individual case, what you're looking for, where you're looking to fit, what and how that sort of fits with clients in that respect. So it won't be, there will be some individuals who may find a route into employment directly as a result of this course. There may be others who are using it as a stepping stone into other courses and other opportunities and other learning. So I'm happy to take that offline with you and look at yours more specifically if you'd like.
Thanks, Anya and Mark, for that. Another Mark Jackson. Hi, Mark. Yes, you can move on to CompTIA's. There are options. The CompTIA training, I'll ask Alice to talk to this in a second. The CompTIA training is just to complicate matters through a different content provider. And we don't have the facility to put people through the exams. You can do as much of the CompTIA as the A+, Security Plus, and you can do some practice exams, but you would need to make your own arrangements to do the exams at the end of that. But Alice, anything to add?
If I could, sorry, just jump in there.
Yeah.
A number of you have indicated that you would like to do CompTIA and other Udemy content. That is all licensed. We've made a note of that. We're routing you through the Coursera first so that it's staggered, but we'll then be releasing licenses for the additional content that you've requested. If you're on that call and you haven't made that preference to us, then just drop me an email and we can add you to the list.
With regards to that, though, sorry, with regard, like you say there, once the CompTIA, like you say, the funding we pay it ourselves, which is fine. Obviously, the progression after that is obviously further certifications. Is that correct, or not?
Well, it depends. It depends what roles you're looking for and what the requirement is for those. I think as military people, we tend to get quite focused on certifications, and as Durgen's already said, it's not always necessary to have a whole raft of certifications and qualifications. And many employers will put you through those qualifications as part of continuous professional development. So as Anya just said, it rather depends on where you are and what you want to do. And we need to have those individual conversations with you to help advise and guide. And if you want to do more training, that's fine. But I think it's clear that there are a range of certifications here, and they are all useful evidence of learning and skill. But I do worry about the practical experience barrier that I mentioned earlier. So it's very helpful to have employers like Durgen who are willing to help people over that. Durgen, is there anything you'd like to come back on and contribute to on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think a good analogy, gosh, 20 years ago when I started my business, I had a chap working with me, in fact, who was one of my bosses in a previous company, as it happened. And he was at that time, and to be fair to him, he is one of the most competent software developers I know. And we, as a company, were one of the we were the first Microsoft, what's called Microsoft Gold partner in the southwest of the UK. And if you know of such things, the gold partnerships and so on, you have to attain a certain amount of personnel with different competencies and so on. And this chap would never take the time out to go and do it. I'm sure he could have done, and he was able to buy a book from Amazon on a Friday and be coding in this new language by the Monday, sort of thing. But the reason being is that he was too busy. So to take the time out, and he didn't enjoy the qualification. So I think you're absolutely right, Andrew. There will be some employers who the certifications are absolutely necessary. And I guess a lot of that depends on the level into which you are coming. So I will take on people who wish to go into cyber, but as you know, as it is, everyone that comes into my MSP business will come in and work on the service desk, regardless if they're working in accounts or account management, so that they understand the client and the pains that sometimes occur for them before they progress. But certainly, you know, at a junior level, for example, they would come in perhaps with no qualifications, and we, as Andrew suggested again, will provide those for them as they progress. And as I suggested earlier, they will fork their careers, i.e. they will think they want to be a hacker, for argument's sake, or a vulnerability or pen tester, and they'll deviate into another area. So that is, you know, something I'm sure that will happen to many on this call and many of your Jumpstart participants.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's fair to, you know, what we're trying to achieve with this professional certification is sufficient to help you into an entry-level role. So a cybersecurity analyst professional certification like this should open up opportunities at entry level for SOC analysts, SOC managers, particularly if you've got some military leadership experience. There's no reason why you couldn't go in managing teams in a security operations center, incident managers, and if you've got some background in intelligence or even understand the intelligence cycle, there's no reason why threat intel shouldn't also be available to you, again, at those entry level roles. If you're looking to go in more senior, then you'd require more, both in terms of skills and experience. But the idea here is to help you get a foot in the door and then grow from there. If I can,
I don't want to obviously interject there. Obviously, in regards to the programs until the end of December, I get it with regards to getting obviously, like you said, the IBM certification and stuff. And probably quite a lot of you people that are veterans on this call are probably going to ask the same question with regards to job opportunities. Is it job opportunities with IBM, or is it job opportunities with other employers?
The job opportunities with IBM and with other employers, and we are working very hard at the moment to consult with those different employers. It's a bit chicken and egg this. We need to know enough about you in order to go to those employers and say, right, this person is looking for this sort of role with these sorts of military background and skills, and geography may play a factor into that. So this is where we want to have these individual conversations with you that then inform an individual conversation with an employer, and then over the course of the autumn or into the new year, for that matter, we can set up those opportunities to gain further experience or to go into jobs. If I can just move that discussion on a little bit onto the subject that Tam's raised around security clearances. This is a bit of a nightmare. You're quite right, it's very difficult to both hang on, if you've got a DV clearance in the past, to hang on to that or to get it back. I don't think it's necessarily a case of have you got a better education or a worse education than somebody with a security clearance, but any form of security clearance is an advantage, and the higher the level it is, that carries a premium with it and opens up opportunities in different sectors. One of the ways of hanging on to your security clearance or regaining it is to join the reserves, and I'm now going to ask Durgen to perhaps just give us a little spiel on what you do with the reserves and the opportunities there for people.
So of course, yeah. So as I sort of suggested earlier, I'm an SO2 in an organisation called Specialist Group Information Services, which sits within 13 Signal Regiment down in Blandford. I've been a reservist now this is my 8th year, and yeah, within this particular organisation, we gain DV as standard. Everyone within the organisation has to have it due to the pan defence clients that we have. Certainly, we are recruiting. I wasn't coming today with a big recruitment banner behind me, which you can't see in the room, but nevertheless, you know, we are recruiting. We do take people directly out of service who have the right technical capability and competency. And there's, as you would imagine, quite a robust boarding process to join, where we take both officers and soldiers into the organisation, and a career can last. Yeah, I mean, I'm 49 to share, and I will be able to stay till I'm 60, where a soldier will be able to stay till 55. So no, it's a great thing to do alongside a professional career. Certainly, we have many who come directly from service, some of whom find it difficult balancing coming out of service and focusing on their day job, their full employment, and maintaining themselves. So there are options to sort of stand down onto the ARG for, you know, a few years, in fact, so as to get oneself in a position where they can really serve with gusto. So yes, that's a little bit about SGIS.
For those who can't bring themselves to join the Royal Signals, there are other options there in the cyberspace, aren't there?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
I said for folk who can't bring themselves to join the Royal Signals, there are other options in the cyber world, aren't there?
Well, there are. I mean, certainly, I coming from a naval family, obviously went to the dark side, it might be said. But yeah, certainly the Navy have a number or growing number, shall I say, of sort of technical and cyber organisations, and the RAF are similarly spinning up. I would say this, but I'm not just saying it for the sake of it. We in the Army are slightly more down the road or further down the road. So we work very much together with those other specialist reserve organisations within the other services. So certainly there are. And then in the Army there is, so my organisation looks at defensive cyber alongside other technologies in use within defence, so SharePoint, data analytics, data science, and so on. And on the offensive side, we've got LIAG, Land Information Assurance Group. There's obviously Joint Force Cyber, which is a reserve, has a big reserve component and so on. So yeah, there's lots of options as well. At some point in the future, should you wish to rejoin, to serve again.
And I do stress the point that it's a good way of getting a security clearance.
It is. Oh, sorry. Yes, that was the point, was it? So yes, absolutely. Yeah, and whilst you know there are limits, but certainly yes, we are able to share our mod DV professionally in the day job as well. So that helps.
And just to confirm the answer to your question earlier, Matt, you can't sponsor yourself through a security clearance process. It has to be an employer that that sponsors you. I noticed your question about being a consultant. There are organizations who you can join as an associate, and they will sponsor you through, and then you can start actually working for them in a security cleared role, obviously, once that clearance comes through. So they can also be an employer. And if you look up list X companies, that gives you a steer towards some of them. We're going to focus on consultancy twice. We've got 2 webinars planned on consulting. We've got 3 ex-military guys from PA Consulting are going to talk about cyber and their journeys. And to answer another question that you've just popped up, Matt, CXC, Company X Consulting, is going to also run one of these webinars, so you'll be able to ask specific questions. But those lists of companies are freely available, and as I say, at least 2 of them are going to come and talk on these webinars. Okay, we've got a few minutes left. Anyone else got any other questions? You can try just speaking and hopefully it'll work. If not, pop it into the chat.
Well, certainly see Company X, there are a couple reservists in my organisation there, so that's useful to know. And certainly thank you for putting up the 13 Signal Regiment. If you I think on that page, I'll just click it. In fact, I think you can see the click through isn't working, but I think Specialist Group Information Services is linked under there as well, if that's useful to anyone.
Do you have much to do with 77 Brigade, or are you part of 77 Brigade?
No, we are separate. We're in 13 Signal Regiment, but no, we work with them on a good number. Again, we're pan defence, so you know, the Army, ironically, are the last people who've come to realise what value we might hold them for them.
Really, I find that hard to believe. Has anyone got any other final questions? Anya, are there any comments or messages out to the troops from you, please?
Yes, I do have a couple. We are tracking individuals' progress through this. So a number of you have enrolled and are making your way through. A couple haven't yet started and done the enrolment. So we will be following up with you to ensure that you're having no difficulties and sort of iron any problems. If anybody is having a problem and we haven't reached out to you just yet, just drop me a line and we'll get to the bottom of it. But we're here to support and to help you through. Obviously, it's self-paced. You can go through at your own pace. You can go through as quickly as you would like. But if you are, as I say, having any difficulties, do give me a shout. And in the meantime, we'll be reaching out and booking appointments, one-to-ones, to help you along in your employment journey.
Thanks, Anya. Anyone got any questions for Anya? Alice, anything from the IBM perspective?
No, nothing really. I mean, in any case, I can share my email if there are any questions, or you can be in touch with me at any time.
Okay.
I think, sorry, to avoid confusing individuals, if they can route through me in the first instance, then Alice, I can feed it into you. I think otherwise we'll just cause confusion with individuals.
Okay, thank you. We will also, I will try and engage on the chat within Skills Build, within the project there. I've seen various commentaries there. I've been out of it for a few days, so I and the team will comment on that. And Alice, if you please keep us right if we're missing communications on that front. Otherwise, just to repeat what Anya said, we are here to help and support and guide and advise, and anything else that we can do to help you on this journey. Be really interested to get your feedback both on these webinars and how you're getting on with the Coursera content. If you're getting stuck with the learning or need some help, IBM are going out to mentors in the business, and also various of the speakers who are coming on these calls have said that they'll help advise and guide. So if you're finding you're getting stuck, then again, get in touch and we'll either find somebody or find other content to help you around that particular barrier. So I think without further ado, on your behalf, I'd like to thank you, Durgen, very much for joining. Very interesting to hear your journey from Navy through, I don't know what I'm going to do, and to a very successful business leader, which just proves the point that military people have all sorts of skills, very often soft skills, which are the often what employers want most. We worry about qualifications and hard skills. Most employers that Anya and I talk to, they're looking for the soft skills, the leadership, the problem solving, the keeping calm when everyone else around you is flapping like a budgie. Right. Those are the sorts of things that people are looking for. So thank you, Durgen, very much indeed for joining us. And he is also available through us if you've got any specific questions. And we'll come back to you once Durgen and I have had a chat about the nature of a work experience later in the autumn.
No, we'll thank you. And it's only left me to wish everyone the best of luck in their career. So yeah, and look forward to hearing if anything arises. Andrew, thank you.
Thank you. And Christina, I've just seen your question there. You should be as far along the course as you wish to be. The whole idea is it moves at your pace. We were expecting people to, those that wish to complete it, to do so by the end of the year, at which point the licenses are no longer going to be valid. We noticed Alice produced some evidence the other day. Some people are moving through this very quickly, others at their own pace. So you should not be at any particular point on that journey. It's just great to get. Okay, you've had them say it was overdue. Okay, all right. Well, I think we're just nudging you through the process there a bit as best we can. But keep the questions coming. If not today, then through emails and the chat facility and Skills Build. And we'll look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time. I'll send details of who the next presenter will be and the subject shortly. But thank you all very much indeed for joining. Have a good rest of the evening, and I hope the Coursera training goes really well. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you, Durgen. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thanks, Durgen. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Stay on for a couple of minutes and just see if there's any last questions that pop up at the end.
Stopping the recording.
Elaine.
Hello.